The air above Murray rumbles with the sheer power of the fast jets. German and British Tornadoes, British Typhoons and Swedish Gripens are just some of the aircraft launching from RAF Lossiemouth in Europe's largest tri-service exercise. It's designed for contingency, a world post-Afghanistan, where air operations are part of a NATO coalition.
Since we are a partner nation, operating with NATO countries gives us a lot when it comes to interoperability. And then, of course, the different British squadrons has a lot of experience from operations and working abroad. And we, of course, also get a piece of that knowledge when we cooperate.
But current operations in Iraq have made their impact on Joint Warrior. With the Tornadoes of 2 Squadron on Operation Shader, 15 Reserve Squadron, who normally do pilot training, have stepped up.
One major part of this exercise is training with ground forces. So we have deployed troops on the ground, simulating that they are trying to find enemy forces, and they use air power, just like you will see on the television today in northern Iraq. They use air power to assist those ground movements. So the aircrew are talking to troops on the ground, finding targets, and then simulated, of course, on the exercise, then attacking those targets to provide the ground forces with advantage to take enemy positions.
There are more than 50 fixed-wing aircraft in the skies here, involved in reconnaissance, air-to-air missions and supporting ground troops. It's here at RAF Lossiemouth in Murray that the largest air element of this exercise are based, taking advantage of its key strategic position. From here, the training area spreads out hundreds of miles by land, air and sea, from here and the Murray Firth to the Irish Sea and right up to Cape Wrath. It's an exercise that takes months of planning for the JTEPS, or Joint Tactical Exercise Planning Team.
Fast jet, south-east, due to confliction out to the west that we've got, and 10K hard dead. That's been passed into the ATO, hasn't it? Yeah.
Every nation will take turns in playing blue or coalition forces and red enemy forces.
The exercise is approximately 2,500 square miles, predominantly in Scotland, but it also does go into northern parts of England, and it encompasses airspace, land space and maritime space. We will have a piece of airspace, and in this example I have a large piece of airspace all the way up to flight level 550, 55,000 feet, whereby I will put the blue forces on one side of an imaginary forward line of own troops, and I'll have the red forces on the other side, such that when they start their air-to-air war, they're actually in different pieces of airspace. I will then task the red forces with how I want them to fly, so which aircraft I want them to replicate, what weapon systems that aircraft will have, how I want them to employ those weapon systems and what tactics to adopt, such that the blue forces, who represent their own nation's capabilities, can fight what they actually are presented with. The idea being that the blue forces won't know what is coming at them until they're presented with it in the air.
With 3 fast jet waves a day, behind the scenes, engineers and technicians are working around the clock. Dummy bombs are dropped on special ranges, with laser technology simulating as close as you can get to the real thing.
What the boys are doing at the moment, as you can see, they're loading in the Hurt Paveway 2,000-pound bomb to one of our Typhoons. Predominantly use this bomb in training. We also use it for when we're doing specialist exercises. Exercise Joint Warrior, we will be using this bomb as well. The front of the bomb is laser guided. Use it in conjunction with the LDP pod, which is a laser guided pod. And the boys there at the moment are just fitting shear wires and the rest of the stuff that's needed for that bomb. These exercises, they're extremely useful for our guys. I mean, we wouldn't predominantly do this unless we're on live operations. So for the guys to be able to see, you know, what's fitted, where it fits, how to fit it and all that, it's a good learning package for all of them.
The advance in technology now on aircraft like Typhoon means they operate in a very different way from their predecessors. And avionics or electronics specialists have a lot to monitor during Joint Warrior.
Typhoon is completely fly-by-wire. What I mean by that is every time the pilot puts an input on the stick, There's no mechanical rods between the pilot, between the stick and the control surfaces. It's all done by electrical signals. So it goes to the flying control computers, and then that sends signals off to hydraulic rams to move all the flying controls for the aircraft. This is the laser detonator pod. It sits on the centre of the aircraft. At the front there is a head that comes up. That's where the laser is situated. And it's also got an optical lens, so it gives the pilots in the cockpit a good 360 view of the aircraft. It's pretty much his second set of eyes while he's up there. It's used on the front line as well with our pilots, so it's good for them to get using it in situations where it's going to be used for bombing and target location. So we get the pods onto the aircraft when we know they're going to be bombing, so that they can get the feel of how the pod's going to be working and how they can work together if there's going to be two aircraft, one spiking, one bombing. So it gets a cohesion between themselves of how the whole system's going to work.
With 22 naval ships and submarines and 3 units of ground forces to support, in a scenario of increased tension, the air crews and ground staff of Joint Warrior have a busy time ahead. But this multinational and multi-service training is likely to be ever more important. Ali Gibson, Forces News, Murray.